So now with the Google Maps package set up, I'll add a new screen actually, because I want to open this map as a full screen map. And hence here in the screens folder, in the lib folder, I'll add a map.dart file. And in there, I'll add a new map screen class, which extends state full widget actually, because I want to be able to pick a place there as well. And at the same time, I also want to be able to show an already picked location. And therefore here, I'll expect to get a place location value. So I will create a property location, which is of type place location. And of course, you must add that import to the place.dart file in the models folder, therefore. And this should be set through the constructor. So here for the map screen, I of course get and forward that key as always. But in addition, I also want to get such a location. However, here, I actually won't require this location, because whilst I of course will need a location to show an existing location, if we open this map screen from the place detail screen, I don't need a location if we're picking a location for the first time from the add place screen. So if we clicked on this select on map button here. So therefore, I'll actually add the location parameter, but I'll not add the required keyword, but instead set this equal to an initial location by adding an equal sign here to assign a default value to this parameter, which will be used if no other value is passed in instead, which would take precedence though. And here I'll then create a new place location object where I'll set the default location to 37.422 and then the longitude to -122.084, which should be the default location of the Google offices. And for the address, I'll add an empty string, because I don't really care about that human readable address here. So that's now this default location, which is set here and which will be used if no more specific location is passed in for this parameter. And this simply allows us to use the map screen in different scenarios. One scenario where we have a location and one scenario where we don't have it yet. Now, of course, besides adding all these things, we also need that good old create state method, where we create the state for this map screen. And then also that second class, the underscore map screen state class, which extends state that belongs to this widget here. And we return a new instance of this map screen state class down here. Now we can add that build method as always. And here I now want to build that map. Now technically it'll still be a screen though, and therefore I'll use the good old scaffold widget also to add an app bar, which would hold this back button, which would allow us to leave that screen. And here I'll use the built-in app bar widget, as I always did. Now in this app bar, I want to have a title, which should be set based on the condition whether we're using this screen to show an already existing place, or if we're using this map screen to pick a new place. Now to get this information, I can't look at location, because this will always be set either to the picked location or the default location. And therefore I'll indeed add a second property here, a Boolean value, which I'll name isSelecting, and I'll set this here as well. And I'll set it to a default value of true, because I got a default location in case we don't have a location. And I'll set this to true as a default, so that if I open this map screen without overriding this, I am assuming that it was opened to pick a new location. So now down here in the state class, we can use widget isSelecting to either show a text of pick your location, or if we're not selecting, we could say your location. I also want to add some actions here to the app bar, or to be precise, I want to add one action that allows the user to save the picked location if we are in this isSelecting mode. So here we can use this if statement to check if widget is selecting. And if we are selecting, I want to add one new element to that list. And that would be the only element we might ever have in that list, to be precise. And that would be an icon button where I will set icon equal to icon, and there the save icon that's built into Flutter. And on pressed, of course, will be set to a function that in the end should save that place and return to the previous screen. And this can be const here. Now we'll come back to this function later. For the moment, I'll instead move on beyond the app bar and add the body to this scaffold widget. Because of course this now is the actual map that should be displayed. And here we can now use the Google Map widget, which is available thanks to this Google Maps package which we installed. Now for that, the import to Google Maps Flutter must be part of this file, so this import here. And with that import added, we can use the Google Map widget to render a map, and this map now of course also can be configured. For example, you must set the initial camera position, which simply defines which part of the map should be centered. And here you must create a camera position object with help of the camera position class provided by the Google Maps package, which takes a target parameter, which is set to a letLNG object with the letLNG class, which is also provided by that package. So all these things are available because of this Flutter Google Maps import. Now here we want a latitude and longitude, and of course we have that because we have the widget, and there the location, and there we have a latitude, and we also have a widget location longitude here. So that's all available, and therefore we can create this lat_long object. We also should set a zoom level, and here I'll set this to 16, though of course you can play around with different values here to, well, show more or less of the map. Now with that, besides setting this initial camera position, we can also add a markers list to the Google Map here. And of course, as always, you can press Ctrl Space here inside of that Google Map parameter list to learn what can be set there. You see, there are a bunch of parameters that can be set, but here it's markers, and markers allows you to create a so-called set of markers. Now a set is a new data type which we haven't used before. You create it with curly braces like a map, but unlike a map, it's not a selection of key value pairs, but instead just a list of values. So it's like a list, but created with curly braces instead of square brackets. And the special thing about a set is that it doesn't allow duplicate values. If you would try to add an already existing value to a set, it would not be added. It would not work. In a list, that's different. If you have a list of strings, you can have exactly the same text in that list as often as you want. In a set, that does not work, and markers simply wants such a set of marker objects here. So a set it is, and in there we can create a new marker which should mark the selected location. For that, I'm creating this new marker object here with the marker class that's provided by the Google Maps package. And here we then should provide a marker ID, which is actually a marker ID object created with marker ID with that class here. And here you should simply provide a unique ID, and since these markers are not dynamically generated here, but I'll instead only have one marker here, which I'm creating in code, I'll give it a hard-coded ID of M1. And this can now be a const value. And a marker also needs a position, which defines where the marker will be placed. And here I'll set this equal to a letLong object, because that is what position wants. And that's the same object as up here with widget location latitude and widget location longitude, like this. With that, we're showing such a marker, and we don't have the logic for picking a place yet, but we have the logic for showing a place, and hence that's what we can do now.